Under the radar for a lengthy period after its conception, the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway is finally taking off under a storm of controversy. A 700-kilometer turnpike infrastructure, the project actually has attracted commendation and condemnation in equal measures since the Bola Tinubu administration approved it in February. Now, for a country with a legacy of woeful infrastructure, it's an ambitious undertaking, if I must say. That's my own point of view. Rather being combative, the Tinubu administration, or Tinubu Bola Tinubu Chief Executive Works Minister David Umahi, should actually lay out bare facts to reassure Nigerians that the project is a worthwhile venture. You're welcome to the show Viewpoint, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. I'm Odiawa AI, and with me on the show I've got Pelumi Awe. Pelumi, you've been in that axis years ago for your NYSC. What is the climate like? Will this project actually, briefly, before we go next into the next phase of the show, briefly, would you say that climate is conducive enough?
Well, I would say yes, but there's a lot to say about it, and I can't wait for us to start asking questions and answering questions.
I'm with you. The show is Viewpoints, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. Join me in the next phase of the show. You're welcome back to the show. The show is Viewpoints, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. I've got with me Pelumi Awe, economic analyst, on the show, and we'll be diving into the coastal concerns concerning Lagos-Calabar Coastal Project under the Tinubu administration. Pelumi, the video should be popping up now, and for Optical Analysis, we are going to be talking about what we see. We can see the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, and the contractor actually is High-Tech Construction Company Limited. What can you say?
Well, I think it's a good project. Every project that has to improve production is a good project. Infrastructure is one that aids production to happen. So whilst there are a lot of controversies around the project, every project that is infrastructurally based, most times are supposed to be able to improve production, so that more persons have jobs in their hands to work with, to put food on their table, and just to improve the standard of living of the people. It's the least the government can do, actually.
Is it the least the government can do, or it is actually a major task the government should undergo, judging from the condemnation and also the commendations?
Well, infrastructural facilities in major clients in the world are the least things the government can actually put in place to ensure that people can have access to things. Because for instance, if you don't have good roads, how then do you expect the people, production will go down, transportation, because once people cannot transport goods from the farm to the market, it increases the cost of production. It increases the cost of the goods itself. So when we talk about, it's not something that people should just applaud the government for. It's something that the government is expected to do. In every budget for a year, you have the current and the capital expenditure there. The recurrent is the one we talk about, civil service, salary payment, and all of that. The capital expenditure, that's the one we are looking at. That's the one that's the one that will reproduce and give us money enough to be able to afford the recurrent expenditures. So it's the least the government can do to ensure that the people are fine and are hale and happy.
Okay. Now, judging from the video now, which we can see now, are we going to expect a rail line anytime soon? Because now this administration seems to be setting up rail lines in different or across the country. Well, will it be advisable solely to focus or stick to just road transportation alone?
Well, for now, it's in phases. The first phase should be the road transportation. So let's get this road settled, because if you see what the state that seems to be leading at the forefront of rail line introduction is Lagos State, and it's been going. The administration has been going well so far, so good. The thing about Nigeria is there are over 8,000 projects that have been abandoned, and usually it's because we overshoot things. We try to reach for the fruit that is up. They are low-hanging fruit.
Okay, permit me to come in there now. Okay. Will it be a question of the devaluation of the Naira rather, For instance, now we purchase an item which is like 500 naira now today, and that project now has to go on for the next 8 years. What happens when the cost increases and the materials increases, the cost for those materials increases, and we have to purchase it at 5,000 naira? What happens?
Well, if that's why certain things have to be made clear. So with the contractor iTech, it has to be made clear that we are giving you this project based on the present exchange rate. Now, even if the exchange rate exceeds over time, because usually the materials that they use to do the road, for instance, should have been gotten before time. To say, if the government is to pay all the amount that is required of them to pay to the company, then the material should have been gotten. The salary of people should also.
Sorry to cut you short there. That's Dave Umahi now. What do you think about a minister who is always on ground monitoring the projects?
Well, this is, sometimes you say it's for the optics, right? It's just for people to see that something is happening. But you can't have this happen without the minister coming there, because there'll be coverage and all of that. But the point is, are we going to see this happen over and over again? That's a question that we need to really answer, because of all the projects he has laid out to do, he said this is going to take about 8 years. And this seems like a project he himself wants to put his name down as somebody who initiated it and making it happen. Because normally, when you come into government, what you're supposed to do is you are supposed to first look at the project that are on ground already, why have they not been completed, and then see if you can push it over the line. But every minister that comes on board seems to want to start his own project and finish it within time. Now, guess what? He has said this project will take 8 years. And my fear is you don't project for a project. That sounds like a rhyme now. You don't project for a project when you're not certain that the president, Bola Tinubu, will return the next 4 years, second tenure. You're not sure about that. And so the question should even be, are we going to have a case of abandoned project if Tinubu doesn't return second term? That's a big question we have to ask ourselves.
But the answer is evident. It's common knowledge that in Nigeria, a president must stay 8 years, not just in Nigeria, in Africa to be specific, based on democratic settings. So therefore, in my own view, my own opinion, if they can work day and night, which ought to be as civil engineers will work, because the civil engineers now currently at work, which we can see now, if they are working day and night tirelessly, that 8-year duration, do you feel or think maybe the completion can actually be met?
Well, 8 years. So you're talking about 8 years project. Now you're saying that a person who is 70 now will be 78 by that time. A child who is 12 years old at this time will be 20. Somebody who is 30 will be 38. So it's a project for the young. And I think that it has to be that we should have more young people in that space so that you can use their strength. So if we engage the right people and pay them on time, because the issue with contracting projects like this is that the government sometimes lag on project. We get to a point where after the excitement, there is always the joy that comes to anything fresh. If it is fresh, people want to put in energy. But are we going to see this over the line? Are we going to ensure that, not even giving them 8 years timeline, give them 4 years timeline? Saying 8 years is like you are giving them leeway to extend things.
Will you say extend things or to lean back? Why? Because we have time.
We have 7 years to go.
Okay.
So it's a case of saying, see, guys, this is something we need in 4 years' time. We need this to be ready before President Bola Tinubu. If he wins this for a second term, we need this to be ready so that we can launch. That's a way to even sell the man, to say, we started this project, we're done with it now, and then give us another 4 years. Maybe we'll do a highway from Lagos to London. We can't tell.
Lagos to London.
I'm telling you.
Okay, I think that has been quite an extensive video for the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway Project. Now we can come back to the show now. I think our viewers have been pleased by the Tinubu administration under the Dave Umahi ministerial appointment. That is a large-scale project on ground. Now, what has actually trailed this actual project on ground has been condemnation and commendation. Now, will you now say you are for or against these projects? That is one. Then secondly, if it is for, or if you are for this project, will you actually say it's a laudable achievement? Because there are so many other things. Because initially, while the video was playing, you made mention of something that there are close to 8,000 projects which have not yet been completed. And also, we also lack this maintenance culture when it has to do with taking care of infrastructure. Take, for instance, the Third Mainland Bridge, which was just revamped. We saw our citizens actually going to destroy some of the street lights. The question is why. So are you for or against this project on a laudable note?
Well, on a laudable note, I think it's a good project. Like I mentioned before now, that every project that has to do with infrastructure is supposed to increase production. And there are multiply effects of projects in that you have it that the path where the road is going to go through, we should begin to think about the implications. Think about
we have Lagos, Ondo states, we have Delta, we have Edo running into.
So if we have that happening, then it means that we should begin to think about having police stations. There are other things that we have to think about as the government thinks of this project. There are implications to every project you're doing. And so if you have drawn that out, then we're good. I'll give you an instance. The railway project done by President Buhari when he was there, we saw that over time, armed robbers started stealing. We had different cases of robbery cases on that path. So it was that they thought about the project without thinking about the implications that comes with it. You have people begin to think about, so I'm seeing that the plots of land along that path, will become more expensive to be gotten by people who want to build houses. You talk about filling stations. So every project that is infrastructurally based brings about production. I've mentioned a couple of things. I mentioned that if we're going to have a police station, there means that more persons will be employed. If we're going to have filling stations, there means that at least you're thinking about 10 filling stations on that part. So you see that more persons will be employed to also fill that space there. Talking about supermarkets. Talking about the fact that the communities, the villages around the towns, the cities around that path will also have more persons coming there to buy stuff from them.
Yes.
I remember when I was going to serve in Akwa-Ibom State, how I used to go there through a bus then. And then from point to point, we'll stop to eat. Point to point, we'll stop to eat. And then we make people who sell stuff around that path tend to make more money because travelers go through the route. So it's a good project if they follow it through and think about the implications attached to it.
Okay, that's a nice one. We talked about the duration of the projects. Now, of course, you already expatiated on that in course of discussion. Now, critics of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway Project have raised concerns about failure to adhere to due process. Now, this adherence to due process is based on the bidding process. Do you feel other people were cheated out from bidding on the project and it was outsourced to high tech?
Well, when it has to do with bidding for a project, sometimes it has to be the person. You can't really take out the place of influence, track record. From record, we have it that they were the ones who did Eco Atlantic Hotel. So yeah. They have a track record that gives them that part to be able to say we can make this happen as well. But the way the project was bidded for is not totally clear. But I would say that given the track record of the company that has been engaged, I think they will do a good job. And looking at the way they're even carrying the work out there, for me, how do you say we deserve to get this project? Sometimes it's the quality of the materials you used, the integrity of the building, again the pace at which you worked. We check the project you have done before and see did you actually do it well? Are they standing the test of time? What has happened so far so good? So if that was done before they were given this project, I think it's not a bad thing for them to do. But something else again is to be sure that this is not their first road project. In that we don't want to, it's not a try a lot, it's not just try it out. It's a federal thing. So we need to be exactly sure that they are doing the right thing. For a project like this, I would have suggested that it could have been a collaborative effort where the best two companies in Nigeria that could do this also are the ones that engage to make it happen. What that does, it speeds up work. You are certain that this project was thought through by two different groups. And that would have been a good thing if the government had done that.
Okay. Conclusively now, the funding plan now is meant to be, or the funding plan of this project is meant to be radically different from previous infrastructure projects. Okay. Now, my point now is the figure now is actually running into trillions of naira. This figure, I hope it will be properly put to use, judging from the fact that funds have been disbursed to execute certain projects, and some were either have big projects or they were never even executed at all. Will this actually live up to expectation?
But when it has to do with fund, I'm very careful. But it looks like the fear of EFCC is the beginning of wisdom.
Yeah, so judging from the Yaya Bello incident.
So we would say that it feels like everybody is now very careful about how they handle the funds in this country, and it's a statement made, strong statement made. I think it's a good thing. If you're going to look at the President Bola Tinubu administration so far, so good. You would say he has made certain powerful statements with moves. Without saying what, he has made some moves that will put everyone on their toes. In check. So I think the project we have now, given the feel from EFCC, the EFCC is now alert. If you do anything that is not the best. So we should actually see the ministry do what is right with the funds. And if they don't, then we have to call them to order. And then again, like I said, I've already said it, that system of monitoring, we don't have that strong, to a very strong extent yet.
I was about asking that.
We need a system to monitor this. We need a system to monitor the progress. So for me now, if I were in the team, I would say that so we're talking about short term, medium term, and long term. Saying, okay, every 3 years we are assessing what we have done already. So there's a committee that is in charge of saying, from now till 2025, we call a meeting, call the company to a meeting, to a room, and then see how much you have spent so far, so good, and what have we done with the money given to you guys? What have you guys done?
To what extent have you performed financially and physically?
And then what's the next point? What's the next stage we are going to now? So between 2025 and 2027, we're coming here again for another meeting to see what we have done so far, so good. That has to be done because we don't have that system very well yet.
Oh. We've heard it from Oluwapelumia. We're breaking it down concerning the Lagos-Calabar coastal concerns. Now, Turnpike infrastructures, which of course this is, are projects which are actually common. A major one is the 1,056-kilometer Pacific Coast Highway in the U.S., which cuts across several states in the 51 states of the U.S. It's the longest state's route there. Now, there's also the 306-kilometer El Salvador Coastal Highway Project. Now, primarily, this is targeted at evacuating large agricultural resources. Now, coming down home, while the issues of accountability are sorted out, the project should be pursued with or to an expeditious logical conclusion, just as we have analyzed here on the show. Ultimately, Nigerians will appreciate the project when the government moves with the same speed to construct the slew of abandoned projects, which have evidently or are evidently littered across the nation. The show has been Viewpoint, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. You do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Veegil Media, and follow us across various social media platforms. Thanks for watching.